Hey guys, it's teamwork build time, so let's get into it. Today's class is the Thaumaturge. This build mainly focuses on buffing our allies. However, this build does have a few abilities that will let us exploit weaknesses, which is what the Thaumaturge excels at. We're also going to be focusing on skills, especially the knowledge skills. So for our ancestry, we're going to go with the elf, and we're going with the Aphorite heritage. But I'll talk about the ancestry feats as they come up. And for our background, we're going with the gladiator background. Now we don't need to be trained in diplomacy to make an impression on someone. We do need to be trained in performance. But performance has a lot of really good skill feats anyway. And of course we need to pick an implement for first level. And we're going with the tome implement. This will give us a +1 to recall knowledge checks while we're holding our tome. In addition, we become trained in 2 skills of our choice. At 3rd, we become expert in one skill and trained in the other. And at 5th, we become an expert in both skills. Our starting stats for this build should be Strength 10, Dexterity 16, Constitution 10, Intelligence 12, Wisdom 12, and Charisma 18. Alright, for our first class feat, we're going to go with Root to Life. So for one action, we can stop an ally from dying. We stabilize them and they are unconscious at 0 hit points. If we spend 2 actions on this feat, then we can attempt flat checks to stop any persistent damage that the target is taking. Also, this is considered particularly effective assistance, reducing the DC of the flat check to 10 instead of 15. And for our first ancestry feat, we're going to want to take Ancestral Longevity. Our tome implement will give us training in 2 skills that we can change every day. Ancestral Longevity will give us 1 more. So we'll essentially have training in 11 skills at level 1. Not quite as good as an intelligence rogue, but close. Our first feat at level 2 is going to be Esoteric Warden. When we succeed on Exploit Vulnerability, we gain a +1 bonus to AC against the creature's next attack, and a +1 to the next saving throw we make against that creature. But we can only gain these bonuses once per day against a particular creature. This might not seem like a good teamwork option, but we're going to need this for a feat we're going to take later on. On the free archetype side, we'll take the Martial Dedication. This is how we're going to get a lot of our buffs in this build. This will give us expert proficiency in Intimidation. In addition, it'll give us our Martial's Aura, which right now just gives us and our allies a +1 bonus on saving throws against Fear, which in and of itself is a good ability, since Fear is so common. But we're going to be taking other feats that'll improve this aura as well. At 3rd level, we get our first general feats, and we're going to go with Ancestral Paragon for Nimble Elf. This will increase our speed by 5 feet and allow us to stay away from melee attackers, because we're pretty squishy. At 4th, we're going to start with Breached Defenses. When you succeed at Exploit Vulnerability, you also note the highest resistance the creature has that can be bypassed. If you prefer, you can make your weapon and unarmed attacks bypass that resistance instead of the normal effects of Exploit Vulnerability. And then we'll take Dread Martial Stance. For one action, you can make an Intimidation check. On a critical success, your martial aura increases to a 20-foot emanation. In addition, you and allies in the aura gain a bonus to damage equal to the number of damage dice of the weapon you are wielding with the most damage dice. If you or an ally in the aura critically hit with a strike, that target becomes Frightened 1. Succeeding on the Intimidation check has the same effects as the critical success, but your aura does not increase. If you fail, then you cannot enter this stance this turn. If you critically fail, you cannot enter this stance for 1 minute. At 5th level, we get our second implement, and we're going to pick up the Amulet. This will give us the Amulet's Abeyance reaction. To use this reaction, you must be holding your amulet and benefiting from Exploit Vulnerability. If the target of your Exploit Vulnerability attacks you or an ally within 15 feet of you, you can give that target resistance to the damage equal to 2 plus your level, so we can protect ourselves and our allies somewhat. At this level, we also get our ability boosts. At this point, we want to increase our dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And for our ancestry feat at this level, we're going to go with offensive analysis. This will allow us to cast True Strike as a divine innate spell once a day. So if we really need to hit a weakness, we can pretty much auto-hit. At 6th, I'm going to start with Instructive Strike. We can make a strike, and if we hit, we can do a recall knowledge check on the target. If we critically hit, we gain a +2 bonus on the recall knowledge check. This is for when we need information besides what exploit vulnerability gives us. For example, exploit vulnerability does not give us their lowest save. This will really help those spellcasters in your party even more than exploit vulnerability will. And then on the free archetype side, we'll take Cadence Call. For one action, we can quicken each willing ally within our Marshal's aura. However, if they use the extra action, they become slowed 1 until the end of their following turn. At level 7, we pick up a general feat, and we're going to go with Fleets. This will give us a speed of 40 feet. Most of the time, we're gonna want to be using a bow and staying away from melee enemies. So having more speed is gonna help with that. At level 8, we'll take Know-It-All. So when we succeed on a knowledge check, then we gain additional information or context. If you critically succeed on a knowledge check, then you might gain even more information or context at the GM's discretion. And then on the free archetype side, the feat is To Battle. Choose one ally within your Marshal's aura that has a reaction available. If we spend one action, then that ally can use their reaction to immediately stride. If we spend 2 actions on this feat, they can use their reaction to immediately strike. So get those spellcasters away from enemies, and when it's not even their turn, or get your martial friends into range, or just let them hit. For the Ancestry feat at level 9, I went with Expert Longevity. When we use Ancestral Longevity, we can also choose a skill we're trained in and become an expert in that skill. In addition, when the effects of Ancestral Longevity and Expert Longevity expire, we can retrain one of our skill increases. The skill increase must either make you trained in the skill you chose with Ancestral Longevity, or make you an expert in the skill you chose with Expert Longevity. So now we have even more versatility with our skills. At level 10 is Ability Score Increases and, of course, 2 class feats. For the Ability Score Increases, we're going to be increasing the same ones we did last time. That's Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. The first feat at this level is going to be Share Weakness. For one action, if you are exploiting a vulnerability of a creature using a mortal weakness, you can choose one ally. That ally's strikes apply to the same mortal weakness that your strikes do. This ends when your exploit vulnerability ends, or you use Share Weakness again. And then we'll take our second dedication, the Overwatch dedication. This will give us a 30-foot emanation Overwatch field. This field gives the entire party a +2 bonus on perception checks when used for initiative. And we'll be taking other feats that will allow this Overwatch field to do other things. This will make it harder for enemies to sneak up on the party and allow us to buff allies even more than we're already doing. It's time for Teamwork Report number 1. First of all, at the start of each day, we need to figure out what skills we're going to need for that day that we're not already trained in. This will allow us to get the most use out of our Tome implement and our Ancestral Longevity Ancestry feats. As for combat, the first thing we'll want to do when we enter combat is to either recall knowledge or exploit vulnerability. Either way, we want to tell our party what we find out. That way, if we find out that the enemy already has a weakness, that way spellcasters and alchemists can hit them with their weakness. We can also share weakness with one of our more martial allies, so they can hit their weakness as well. Other than that, just look at the situation and figure out which buffs your allies need. I'm not going to be doing a second teamwork report for this video, since at level 20 it's basically the same thing. You're just better at it. Alright, at level 11 we'll take Toughness as our general feat for more hit points. Then at level 12 it's Shared Warding. So when we use Esoteric Warden, we can give the bonus to all allies within 30 feet as well. And then on the free archetype side, you'll want to take Forewarn. So when an enemy in our Overwatch field attempts to attack an ally who is also in our Overwatch field, then we can force that ally to target our Perception DC instead of the ally's AC. This means that conditions like clumsy and flat-footed that would normally affect the target do not, because neither of those affect Perception DC. We can use this reaction once per minute. For the Ancestry feat at level 13, I took Universal Longevity. This will give us even more versatility with our skills, as we can now change the skills that we picked with Ancestral and Expert Longevity once per day. At 14th, it's time for Trespass Teleportation. If the target of our exploit vulnerability is within 120 feet and tries to use a teleportation effect, we can use a reaction to teleport along with them. In addition, any allies that are affected by Share Weakness or Ubiquitous Weakness, which we are going to be taking, can spend their reaction to do the same, if they so choose. They must be within 120 feet of the target as well. Then it's Tactical Cadence. When you use Cadence Call, the quickened allies can use their extra action to stride or strike, and they aren't slowed 1 if they use the extra action. At level 15, there's a bunch of things we need to cover. First, we get our third implement, and we're going to go with the Bell implement. This will give us the Ring Bell reaction. So if the target of our exploit vulnerability tries to cast a spell or make a strike against you or any of your allies, then if the trigger of this reaction was a spell, then the spellcaster must make a Fortitude saving throw against our class DC. If they fail, they become Stupefied 1 until the end of your next turn. Stupefied 2 if they critically fail. This doesn't force them to make a flat check to avoid losing the triggering spell, but as normal for Stupefied, it does lower their spell attack roll and or DC. If the trigger was a strike, then the enemy must make a will saving throw against your class DC. If they fail the saving throw, then they become your choice of either Clumsy or Enfeebled 1 until the end of your next turn. If they critically fail the saving throw, then they become Clumsy or Enfeebled 2, your choice. At this level, there's also the ability score increases and our general feats. For the ability score increases, it's time to switch it up a little bit. Increase your Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. We almost have the highest dex we're going to be able to get. So increasing our Constitution will give us a little bit more hit points at this level. And then for our general feat, we're just going to go with the basic Canny Acumen for our reflex saves, since that's the saving throw that we're not going to get a master in. At level 16, first feat is Implements Flight. So as long as we're holding a Thaumaturge implement, we gain a fly speed equal to our land speed, which means we can now do our thing without having to worry about melee enemies on the ground. And then it's Control Tower. When your allies within your Overwatch field gain a +2 bonus when using the Seek action to detect hidden or undetected creatures in your Overwatch field. Also, they don't have to make flat checks to target concealed creatures in your Overwatch fields. Also, when you or your allies within your Overwatch field attempt to target a hidden creature, reduce the DC to 5. This will make it extremely difficult for enemies to sneak up on the party, which is very, very handy. At level 17, we get our last Ancestry feats, and we're going to go with Impose Order. Once per day, when we critically fail a skill check, or we suffer an effect with the Misfortune trait, we can use this reaction. If it was a Misfortune effect, then we cancel it out. But we're mostly going to want to use this when we critically fail a skill check. If the trigger was critically failing on a skill check, then you receive a result of 10 plus your proficiency bonus instead. So basically, if we critically fail a skill check, we gain the effects of Assurance in that skill once per day. Pretty handy. Then at level 18, we'll take Intense Implement. This will give us the Adept benefit from our Bell. Now the penalties from our Bell last for 3 rounds instead of 1 round. And if we can combine Clumsy with Flat-Footed, that's even better. And then on the free archetype side, we don't really have a good feat that we can take here, so we're just going to go with Topple Foe. Our athletics isn't going to be all that good, but this feat will allow us to trip foes without using any of our actions on our turn if we need to, which could go great with the other feat at this level. For our last general feat at level 19, we're just going to go with the basic Die Hard. This will increase our survivability. And then we come to the last two feats and our last set of ability score increases. So for our ability score increases at level 20, we want to increase our Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma. Then we'll pick up Ubiquitous Weakness. When you exploit vulnerability and choose a mortal weakness, you can select any number of allies within 30 feet. Their strikes now apply the same mortal weakness that your strikes do. This ends when your exploit vulnerability ends. It's very handy when the entire party can hit an enemy's weakness. Enemies will go down super quickly if that's the case. And the last feat for this build is going to be Wide Overwatch. This will increase your Overwatch field to a 60-foot emanation, allowing you to use it even more. And that's it for the build. If you want to see more build videos like this, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2e teamwork content. You can also check out the Patreon page for a Google Sheet of this and other builds. So until next time, teamwork is vital.